So E3 has been and gone once again, and I've had some time to reflect on the boatloads of news, announcements, and reveals that we got during this year's event. With some of the responses on social media, a lot of people are putting their negative spin on E3, and with Sony's absence, people have been quick to label 2019 as the death of E3, and seem to believe that without PlayStation's presence, the event is at its end. But, and I might just be an optimist and a lover of games, I can't help but feel we were shown some epic new trailers at the press conferences and streams, and some exciting new IPs, reveals of hotly anticipated release dates, and the gameplay showed at the Coliseum, inside Xbox, and Nintendo's Treehouse was really something to get excited about. Coming into E3, it feels like Christmas for gamers, and even though many people want to hate on E3 and everything that was not announced or failed to live up to people's hype, I love this time of year every year. So let's get into my top 10 games of E3 2019, and make sure that if you enjoy this video and like what I do, subscribe to the channel for everything Direckt Gaming. Now, let's begin. Now, I can imagine that this game would probably top a lot of people's lists from E3 this year. Square Enix really started their conference off with a bang, showing a new story trailer, an extended and in-depth look at the new combat system and gameplay, as well as showing off the much anticipated reveal of fan favourite Tifa. And yeah, even I was blown away by this game. I've not played a single Final Fantasy game in all my years of gaming, but what Square showed off here got me super excited for its release next March. A fast-paced yet tactical battle system, gorgeously detailed environments and characters, and great cinematic moments reminiscent of the original game, shows the care that Square is putting into this title, and for good reason. The crowd at Square Enix's conference were uncontainable, especially with the reveal of Tifa, and Tetsuya Nomura making an appearance on stage as well will do wonders to placate fans who may be becoming impatient after all these years of development. It's yet to be seen if Final Fantasy VII Remake will be strictly a PS4 exclusive, as rumour has it that it'll be a timed exclusive only. But no matter what the platform this game is set to release on, it's surely going to be one of the most anticipated games leading into the end of the current generation. Questions still remain regarding how long fans will have to wait for the subsequent parts of the game, as the creators have stated that the first part of the remake will only take part in Midgar, but with the promise that it'll be as big as any other Square RPG and apparently releasing on 2 Blu-ray discs, it should hopefully tide over fans until the releases of the following episodes. Final Fantasy VII Remake will finally drop on March 3rd next year. When Ninja Theory were announced as acquired by Microsoft at last year's E3 press conference, I think the overall response was very positive. Microsoft is spending big on indie studios, giving them the creative freedom and monetary stability to create great games. And after Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, people would probably assume something similar, narrative-driven, beautifully designed single-player, would be in the works as a follow-up to this critical darling. But in the lead-up to E3, sadly for the developers at Ninja Theory, their new game's trailer was leaked, and it did not scratch any of the itches people were hoping for from a Ninja Theory game. Now, this, unfortunately, is how social media goes, but as someone who has high hopes for the Xbox Game Studios, and as an avid supporter of what Phil Spencer and Matt Booty are doing at Microsoft, I'm super pumped to see this game revealed. Bleeding Edge is a 4v4 melee-focused multiplayer brawler with a hugely colourful art style, wild and wacky playable characters, and an aesthetic that gives me vibes of Overwatch and Borderlands, with combat more along the lines of stylish action games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. Squads will battle the enemy for capture points and other objectives, all while working together to defeat their enemy teams, and I think this game has huge potential. The devs are well versed in narrative games, sure, but they've always worked on games with super fun and stylish combat like DMC, Devil May Cry, Enslaved, Odyssey to the West, and Heavenly Sword. The developers, I assume, knew the potential pushback from the public, as Bleeding Edge isn't what many may have expected, and stated clearly that this game was in development long before Microsoft took over. And you would expect they will be working on another single-player game for the future, presumably on Xbox Scarlet. From reports on the show floor, people were impressed by the way the game plays, and it will be playable in a technical alpha starting on June 27. If you've got an Xbox, it'll be worth a try at least, and of course, like everything from Xbox Game Studios, when it releases in full, it will be included day and date with Game Pass. Another Xbox Game Studios game made waves at Microsoft's press briefing, one that we were teased with in 2018, but looks to be a huge return to form for 343 Industries and the Halo franchise. When Phil Spencer finally announced the upcoming next-generation Xbox console, Project Scarlet, it was announced in tandem that Halo will be a launch title for the new system. the first time since the original Halo dropped alongside the OG Xbox. Much like a lot of Microsoft's presser, there was no gameplay to show, but Halo Infinite still makes my list due to sheer anticipation. Many will disagree with me, but I for one love what 343 have done with the Halo license since taking over from Bungie. Halo 4 had, in my opinion, the most compelling story in a Halo game, and finally gave us a glimpse further into who the Forerunners were, and gave us the Direckt as a tremendous enemy. Halo 5's story was admittedly a weak point for the series, but the multiplayer was slick, and Warzone and Warzone Firefight were loads of fun. But Infinite looks like it's bringing Halo back to something more akin to the Bungie art style, but with spectacular next-generation graphics. We still don't know any concrete details surrounding the main narrative, the multiplayer, or if the game will be open world, which has been speculated, but I for one am all in on Halo Infinite. If the developers do this right and deliver a truly breathtaking Halo experience for release with the Xbox Scarlet, this could be a system seller for many who may have sat out the current generation and not played on Xbox One. And a blockbuster launch title is just what Microsoft needs. Halo Infinite looks gorgeous and will hopefully play just as well, and I can't wait to get my hands on it holiday 2020 alongside Xbox's newest console. EA kicked off E3 this year with a gameplay reveal of Respawn's upcoming Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order, and finally showed fans what they'll get to experience in the first single-player Star Wars title since the disappointing Force Unleashed 2. Respawn Entertainment are hailed as a top-quality studio with great narrative pedigree, especially since Titanfall 2, and a brilliant ability to create fast-paced action and traversal. Jedi Fallen Order looks set to mesh these talents together as its Souls-like combat system without the crushing difficulty curve, Metroid-inspired map design and traversal of levels, and hopefully a gripping Star Wars story. Even though many were left underwhelmed by the gameplay demos shown at EA Play, extra information from sources like Game Informer make me feel very excited for this game. In my opinion, the dark time between Order 66 and A New Hope has been all too familiar in the current Star Wars canon, but I do have faith that Respawn have developed a memorable narrative that will fit nicely into this timeline. The story of a Padawan in hiding fighting against the Imperial forces to restore some form of glory to the Jedi Order isn't exactly the most creative setting for a new Star Wars game, but it will be the characters that need to make an impact and really get the most out of this story. There's nothing quite like the feeling of swinging a lightsaber in a video game and the power you feel as a Jedi, so I'm incredibly excited for what Respawn have in store, and hopefully this game will kickstart EA's failed Star Wars license into something more acceptable. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order releases on November 15th this year for Xbox One, PS4 and PC. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Borderlands games, and the long-awaited sequel to one of my favourite games of all time is probably one of my most anticipated games of this entire year, but it's not higher on my list simply because we didn't get that much new information at E3, but we did get a cool new trailer, and the impressions from people who played it are sounding very positive. The combat looks like it's been massively improved upon, with improved traversal mechanics, sliding while shooting, mantling, clambering, as well as what appears to be hugely expanded weaponry, which is something I never thought possible with this series. Weapons now have multiple firing types, and each weapon manufacturer has specific traits for their weapons to really set themselves apart from the other. Jacob's bullets ricochet, TDL guns chase down your enemies when thrown, Malawan weapons can have multiple elemental types, and the loot game seems to be also stepped up another notch. The developers at Gearbox have such a creative mindset for developing their weapon systems for Borderlands, and it looks set to be even more fun than before. Couple this with an awesome roster of Vault Hunters which look to change up the way you play the game once again, with multiple action skills per class and hopefully an array of exciting perks and abilities to level up. And this game looks like it may redefine what we think of looter shooters. Personally, I'm so incredibly happy that the developers at Gearbox have kept Borderlands 3 as a drop-in, drop-out co-op shooter in the vein of its predecessors, rather than follow the route of The Division or Destiny and become an always online shared world, because this is the heart of what makes Borderlands so great. I can't wait to see what crazy enemies litter the multiple planets you'll be traversing through Borderlands 3, and what insane boss battles we'll get to experience, like the Warrior and Terramorphous. After so many years since the masterpiece that was Borderlands 2, there is a lot of hype to live up to with this sequel, but as far as I can see, it seems to be delivering exactly what Borderlands fans want. More guns, more loot, more worlds to explore, awesome characters, hilarious writing, and hopefully a story that exceeds that in Borderlands 2. It won't be long until we find out, as Borderlands 3 drops September 13th this year for PC, PS4, Xbox, and Google Stadia later on. Action RPG dungeon crawler Minecraft Dungeons looked the absolute goods when Microsoft debuted it on stage at this year's press briefing, showing us a gorgeously rendered Minecraft-inspired world filled with all the familiar tropes of this gaming behemoth. Bricks and blocks, creepers and zombies, bows and swords, but with an exciting spin that looks like it has some serious depth. It looks like crafting and mining is just out of the equation in this game, and the combat and RPG elements are the big focus here, with customizable armor, weapons and abilities in a style that is similar to Diablo, even when pulling up the map that overlays the screen. Minecraft Dungeons features 4-player couch and online co-op, and it looks like a perfect game to play on the couch with friends and slay some block-shaped demons, or endermen, whatever you choose. The trailer at Microsoft's conference gave us a good glimpse at gameplay and some of the systems, but didn't give us much else. But the frenetic action with a ton of enemies on screen and the customization options looks like this could be a hell of a lot of fun. We can assume we'll see more, possibly at Gamescom or XO19, with hopefully a concrete release date. Currently it's slated for spring 2020 release on Xbox and PC. Despite its premise being leaked just before E3 began and Ubisoft then announcing the game's title swiftly after the leak, I think everyone was still blown away by what Watch Dogs Legion is attempting to do. Watch Dogs is a series that has changed identity with every release, from its grim and gritty depiction of Chicago in its debut title, to the colourful and edgy sequel set in San Francisco. The game looks set to change it all up for somewhat of a serious tone in a post-Brexit London. But what really sets this game apart from its predecessors and what puts it so high on my list is the ambition behind its premise. No longer are you in control of one protagonist, but the developers are stating that you can recruit any person from within the world to become part of your resistance against Albion. The gameplay shown off at Ubisoft's conference showed multiple playable characters, all voiced, all with apparent backstories and different abilities, and showed how if things go wrong, permadeath is a feature that will permeate your campaign. It will be seen when we get our hands on Watch Dogs Legion how extensive this gameplay mechanic and backbone to the story is, because the devs so far have promised that every character will have some form of origin story type mission and be fully voiced. One of the developers working on the game stated in an interview that there are 20 character archetypes throughout London, from grandmas to street punks, police officers to council workers, and it's going to be interesting to see how Ubisoft managed to not make every person within each archetype not feel like a carbon copy of the next character. However, with what looks to be an incredibly fun and creative combat system with hacking options, non-lethal measures, some decent hand-to-hand combat as well, and a range of cool tech to play with in this sandbox, I think Watch Dogs Legion could be a breath of fresh air for this series, which has so far failed to live up to the hype. And we won't have to wait too long, as Watch Dogs Legion drops on March the 6th, 2020 for PC, PS4 and Xbox One. Astral Chain is a brand new IP from heralded studio Platinum Games, known for their stellar work on Nier Automata, Bayonetta and Vanquish, among many others, and looks set to continue the studio's trend of making games with stunning visuals coupled with awesomely stylish gameplay and fast-paced combat. Astral Chain puts you in the shoes of a customizable character, male or female, who's part of an elite special police force called Neuron, who are attempting to protect the futuristic city of the Ark from an extra-dimensional threat. What looks really exciting about Astral Chain is the way combat works with your partner, the Legion. The Legion can be utilised in many ways in combat, and the way you and your Legion synergize together will create what looks to be a satisfying and stylistic combat system in this gorgeous cyberpunk world. As part of the police force, you'll be solving cases throughout the game using Batman detective mode-esque skills with your Legion in tow to try and defeat the extra-dimensional threat that looms over the Ark. Character designs look gorgeous, the colour palette of the game is a stunning neon cyberpunk aesthetic, and the combat looks brilliant to play, and with a pedigree like they have, Platinum Games looks set for another success with their latest title. Interestingly, Astral Chain is a Switch exclusive much like Bayonetta 2, so you'll be able to experience this gorgeous title at home or on the go when it releases August 30, 2019. Alright, this is probably my most anticipated game of the entire year. Obsidian Entertainment have made some brilliant games in the past, with Fallout New Vegas being, in my opinion at least, the best Fallout to date, as well as South Park The Stick of Truth, KOTOR 2 and Pillars of Eternity, all being incredibly deep RPG titles. This studio has a tremendous reputation, and not only is the Outer Worlds looking set to continue this trend, but with some of the creative minds behind the original Fallout series being at the helm, this first-person sci-fi RPG set in the far reaches of space in a system controlled by mega corporations looks set to scratch the itch of many a Western RPG fans, in lieu of the recent downfall of the Fallout series. The Outer Worlds looks to be brimming with deep dialogue systems, roleplay mechanics, weapons, squad mates, a dark sense of humor, interesting locations to explore, multiple ways to tackle missions, and the freedom to be a hero or a villain. The Halcyon system, where the Outer Worlds takes place, is a far cry from the civilization of Earth, and megacorporations have staked their claim in total control of the lives of the residents, and it will be up to you to fight against their tyranny if you so choose. The Outer Worlds looks set to give you the freedom to make your own decisions on your path, and if you want to watch the world burn, the option will be there. You'll be able to traverse the handful of planets in the Halcyon system as well, to visit multiple different locations on your ship, which will house you and your squad mates, reminiscent of the Normandy in the Mass Effect series. And there will be some interesting ways to utilize your squad mates, which sounds like a cool new twist on the RPG mechanics we've seen in so many other games, as the developers have spoken at length about the leadership skill tree, which will augment the way you and your squad can work together. This, as well as the dumb dialogue options and flaws that can be permanently gained to your character through combat, give even more depth to the Outer Worlds, and some creative changes to the way the typical Western RPG works. Combat will include tactical time dilation, which will work as a slow motion tactical option, somewhat in the vein of VATS, as well as a host of ranged and melee weaponry and some super creative science weapons that look set to screw with the physics of the world in hilarious ways, like the shrink ray we saw in the latest E3 trailer. The devs have stated this game won't be hundreds of hours long, but will be rich with interesting storytelling, deep mechanics and dialogue, and this is something I can entirely get behind. As much as I love The Witcher 3, Skyrim and Fallout, these games are massive undertakings, and a 30 or so hour game like The Outer Worlds with huge replay value reminds me of the tight experiences from the Mass Effect series, where you just want to go back and play it all again to see what you can change in your second, third and fourth playthroughs and beyond. I'm incredibly excited to get my hands on The Outer Worlds, which will be available October 25th this year on PC, PS4 and Xbox One. And as Obsidian is now an Xbox Game Studio, will be available day and date on Xbox Game Pass for both console and PC. If The Outer Worlds is my most anticipated game for 2019, then Cyberpunk 2077 has to be my most anticipated game for this entire generation. CD Projekt Red have proven themselves to be a one-of-a-kind developer and publisher, and after creating one of the most incredible games of all time in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, have put their heads down for many years in preparation for this game's release, taking the Cyberpunk license and making it their own, albeit with input and blessing from the pen and paper RPG's creator Mike Pondsmith. Cyberpunk 2077 looks set to blow audiences away once again, just as the studio did in 2015 with The Witcher 3. When we finally got a look at Cyberpunk at last year's E3, it was up to every single other developer worldwide to compete with the level of immersion and polish that CDPR bring to their worlds, with a stunning near-future Night City teeming with personality, crowded streets, crazy body modification and augmentation, and wild combat abilities and RPG systems. A fluid class system that allows you to play the way you want, and dialogue options to cater further to your playstyle as well, means that everyone's experience of Cyberpunk 2077 could be different to the next, and a customizable, fully voiced protagonist looks set to really satisfy RPG fans who want to immerse themselves into this beautiful world. What rocked everyone's E3 this year, however, was the surprise introduction of Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077. Reeves plays Johnny Silverhand, a rock star who was part of the original pen and paper game, Cyberpunk 2020, and who is somewhat of a digital ghost inside the head of protagonist V throughout the game. It's unknown at this point what kind of role he will play, however his appearance in this year's trailer at Xbox's conference, as well as his surprise appearance on stage to announce the game's release date, has gotten people even more excited for CDPR's big release. So far, we've not been privy to the overarching narrative behind Cyberpunk 2077, but the game's description on Steam gives us a bit of an exciting premise, whereby our playable character V is searching for a one-of-a-kind implant that could be the key to immortality. Will Keanu's role inside your head be key to finding this implant? Will the teasers of entering cyberspace to track down a legendary netrunner be part of this overarching story as well? The amazing thing with the marketing around this game is we just don't know where the main story will take us, And that, in my opinion, makes this even more exciting. The graphics look brilliant, the characters seem deep, and the systems look to be incredibly creative and customizable, and I for one am hugely excited to jump into CDPR's next masterpiece, which will finally be released into the wild on April 16th, 2020 on PC, Xbox, and PS4. So thanks for watching this breakdown of my top 10 games that we saw at E3 2019. But now it's your turn to get into the comments and let me know what your most anticipated games are now that E3 has been and gone. I know there were some big titles that I've not included here, and maybe some on my list that may have passed you by as well. So give me your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to hit like and share it with a friend, as it truly helps out the channel in a huge way. I'm super excited about what's to come, not just this year, but in 2020 and beyond. So let's talk some video games, E3 hype, and anything else. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can find me at Direckt Gaming, and you can see what I'm playing there and working on for future videos. You can also find me on Spawn Respawn, where we do weekly podcasts as well, and you can check out some of my thoughts and reviews at 181gaming.com. So go check out those guys too, they're awesome, and massive thanks to everyone who's made it this far. You're all breathtaking. Until next time, peace.